Weera used to be a star. Until the age of 30, he was a television producer who became a celebrity for young people in Thailand who loved his program.
Actually, I think that TV is very...
I think television is important and affects everybody. Most television programs in Thailand and other countries aren't a very good way of teaching people, especially young people.
Teaching the people, or actually the young people.
How can we change the relationship that young people have with television when they are often passive captives to it for 3 or 4 hours a day? Being very conscious of this fact, Weera gave up his attractive and comfortable career in order to serve his country and its young people who were all too often neglected.
Before that, I working for
I used to be in business. I worked for the money, to have money to survive. And now I teach students how to be reporters, how to use television productions as a means to make their lives better. I teach throughout the whole country.
Like a teacher now, teaching all around the students all around the country.
With the support of the government, Weera turned his attention to schools and started up video-making clubs. He could persuade UNICEF to finance a model workshop in Bangkok, the idea being that it could be replicated by the students and would run itself for those who had no knowledge of television production.
It's the children themselves writing the scripts, conceptualizing the storyline, and thinking of the issues that they would like to see on screen, you know, on video.
They can have the life skill to develop themselves.
They have the ability to produce television programs and through this to blossom. They learn more about the world, society and their country. In this way, they are ready to have a career and to become good adults in the future.
Be a very good quality person in the future.
ปัญหาเรื่องขยะที่อำเภอแม่เสลียงจังหวัดแม่ฮ่องสอนตอนนี้เป็นอย่างไรบ้างคะ
สภาพขยะในแม่เสลียงในตอนนี้นะคะ
It's really interesting because children have their own focus, and you can see that it's very different from the way adults think. And that's why whenever we watch these productions, we say, yeah, that's true, isn't it? That's how we should be thinking too.
Young people faced with problems can now react. They begin to take charge of their own lives by creating their own choice of programs. A few years later, the model has expanded. A network of 300 schools is now spread around the country. The experience of Weera, a Thai social worker, is described in the book Passeurs d'Espoir, Givers of Hope, by Marie-Hélène and Laurent de Cherisey, who you will hear in this film. The story of how Net for God met this couple goes back to an article which appeared in a French newspaper entitled A Family Around the World, Reporters of Hope, which drew our attention. They described how in July 2004 they left France with their family of 5 children, aged between 5 and 12 years old, on a world tour, taking in 18 countries over a period of 14 months.
La particularité de ce voyage, c'est que dans chaque pays, ils ont rencontré...
The special aspect of their journey was that in every country they visited, they met up with men and women who were working to improve the situation in their own particular area. They took video recordings of these givers of hope, and afterwards we made this film with them. The encounter has opened up many horizons for us, and especially in getting to know the association called Reporters of Hope. This meeting was very important in that it encouraged us to make the film you are about to watch. You will hear Christian de Boisredon, who is in charge of the association Reporters of Hope. Its aim is to encourage the generation of public awareness of solutions to the problems of our times. We see their vocation as complementary to Net for God videos, which we produce each month, showing that it is possible to work for peace and unity throughout the world.
Et l'unité à travers le monde. L'idée du tour du monde, c'était un rêve.
The idea of a trip around the world was an old dream.
We tried hard to place this dream into the hands of God, and it was He who led us.
On était heureux pour nos propres enfants.
We were very happy to show our children this aspect of the world which was being built.
And what is really wonderful is when you start to look at the world with eyes that look on real life and see thousands of wonderful stories and what we called builders of the 21st century.
À chaque fois, on partait d'une situation problématique.
Each time we began with a difficult situation, and each time we met people who had dared to do something to change this situation. Making the problem known in the media, but also the solutions to it. The idea of doing this came about one Christmas night. That day on the television news, they spoke of nothing but catastrophes. Realizing this gave Laurent the idea for the association Reporters of Hope. We had the idea of encouraging journalists who are researching solutions to contemporary problems, which we must talk about because people are suffering, and also enabling them to speak about the solutions. This is important. Before leaving for his journey, Laurent shared his idea with a friend, an agricultural engineer, Christian de Boisredon, who 6 years earlier, with two friends, had completed a tour of the world of hope.
What we realized then was that speaking about these initiatives inspired people to act. We learned that communication can be really creative and positive.
So in May 2004, Reporters of Hope was born, uniting many journalists.
Often the media has a tendency to speak about problems and catastrophes in a way that makes us despair or be inhibited. But other journalists can deal with the two angles of reality. The world is made up of light and shade, and we think that the role of the journalist is to deal equally with both.
How could you go on living after a genocide which in 1994 resulted in the barbaric death of 1 million Rwandans in 100 days? Tutsi, Hutu and Twa, the three ethnic groups of the country, massacred each other. The family of reporters went to Rwanda to meet three men who had escaped the genocide, one Tutsi, one Hutu and one Twa. Confronted with the suffering and wounds of the war, together they have committed their lives to witness and work for reconciliation, so that the walls of hate that divide them might be destroyed. François Xavier is a teacher, married with 4 children. He welcomes the family to Kigali Memorial, and as a good teacher, he explains to them the origin of the genocide.
Here's an example of the propaganda, the 10 Commandments of the Bahutus that were published in the paper Kandura, show that the Tutsi is evil. You shouldn't marry one, and everyone who does marry one is a traitor. and this created hate in their hearts. It happens like this in all the histories of racism and genocide.
C'est ainsi que ça se passe dans toute l'histoire de racisme et de génocide.
They treated me as an accomplice because I was married to a Tutsi. Jean-Marie used to be a famous designer.
What was it that saved you when you were standing in front of a grave with a gun to your head?
When he was going to kill me, I didn't know if I was going to be saved, but I had something in my heart which asked me to love and to forgive. He asked me, "What are you thinking about?" "I'm thinking of you," I said. "I want you to have peace."
That's what you said to your murderer?
Yes.
And how did he react to this?
He was silent. Seeing the children abandoned in the streets, Jean-Marie created a centre to welcome them and to live with them. I left everything I was doing without knowing if I could feed these children, because I said to myself, today the essential is not to clothe the body, but I'm going to try and give love to the heart. The family goes to meet Gérard in the village of Niamarta.
My ethnic group is not recognized at all. We are treated like idiots. At one point I said to myself that animals had more value than us. To experience this truly wounded my heart. I didn't feel hate in my heart, but a suffering which pushed me to work to try to make everyone understand what a human being is. People are the same, no matter what their ethnic group. I wanted to work for reconciliation and the discovery of truth.
La réconciliation à la découverte de la personne humaine et aussi à la découverte, disons, de la vérité.
Today, Gérard, François-Xavier and Jean-Marie are united. And together they run times of reconciliation throughout the entire country. Thousands of Hutus, Tutsis and Twa from the Great Lakes region gather together to go over their history.
Les gens peuvent s'asseoir ensemble.
People can sit down together, be real with each other, say what is in their heart without putting on masks. No suffering should be underestimated. Each person needs to be valued to be able to have peace. Everything will come through peace and unity in the country, starting with ourselves and particularly through the family, because sometimes all the evil that we do comes from the wounds we receive in our family education.
Many people have already awakened to work for peace, and that is what is going to change the face of Africa.
I believe we are truly called to be universal people who have a heart as large as the world. Forgiveness is without limit. What strikes me is the courage of these people who have lived through terrible things and regret their sufferings. They are not centered on their own problems. They think of others. They say that the only way forward is to forgive, so they forgive. There's a beautiful saying of Gandhi. A tree that is cut down makes a great noise, but a growing forest makes no sound at all. Our role is to work with the media to see how we can make this quiet forest known.
Puisque c'est ça effectivement qui est le plus intéressant.
In this quiet forest, it is individuals like each one of us who decide to refuse fate and the day they see a situation of suffering to get moving. There is a first step against doing nothing. And the first step, who knows where it can lead?
Pierre BARNERIAS is a journalist. As producer of the 7 de Cherisey family films, in his own way he has been on a tour of the world, camera in hand. 7 films made about the family's extraordinary adventure.
Moi, je suis profondément journaliste, c'est-à-dire que l'information, c'est, je suis un témoin.
I am a journalist at heart and more than just a news reporter. I'm a witness of what is happening, and the world is not only made up of catastrophes. There are also wonderful things happening. Today it is the ordinary that is becoming extraordinary. What interests me is that in such a state of stagnation, showing things going well has become wonderful. I think that we can produce good documentaries if we show 2 things, the problem and the solution to the problem.
C'est-à-dire le problème et la solution au problème.
Albina Reese is an Indian woman straight from the Amazon forest, an energetic person, pleasant and happy. In a country like Peru, where coloured women who come from the forest are devalued and suffer strong racism against them, Albina has moved mountains of garbage.
The problem is that here we suffer from the filth. Nobody cares for us, neither the government of Lima nor that of our own town.
And with the wind, the smell is unbearable.
Yes, it really stinks.
At Lima, there are 2 types of garbage which are not processed. They accumulate in the streets, along the rivers and on the edge of the sea. The poor districts are the most affected, and these piles encourage microbes, germs, water pollution and various diseases like cholera. Albina, an economics student at the University of Lima, was disgusted by the situation and developed the idea of cleaning and recycling micro-businesses.
How did you mobilize all those people?
I learned that alone I could do nothing. We must always work with other colleagues in the micro-businesses and with the state. I believe that working with others helps us a lot. Also, it helps to be bold and persistent. If I go back tomorrow and again the day after, and I keep insisting, then doors open. Thanks to this collaboration, and not without its struggles, the micro-businesses were born. Albina provides practical means to solve the problems of the poorest because it is they who are the first victims.
In this micro-business we are united. We are 3 single women and we all have children. We collect everything which comes from businesses and schools. We buy it at a small price, then we recycle it and afterwards resell it. I'm very proud of this work. In this way, I can take care of my children, feed them, and allow them to have an education.
They're separating out the coloured paper, the white paper and the newspaper because the prices are different.
Previously, when the children played in the street with the garbage, they were always sick. Now they are well, in good health.
The solution works so well that many towns in Peru asked the Association of Albina to come and set up this model. We try to form professionals and leaders in all the areas. There is an agreement with the Catholic University of Peru, which teaches a specialist program. They have written 6 books based on my experience, divided up into 6 courses. It's a program of specialization at a national level. Thanks to these methods, Albina has enabled an activity which was dangerous to health and socially degrading to become recognized as profitable.
La grande chose qu'ils m'ont appris, c'est que on peut débuter.
The greatest thing I learned was that we can start out with nothing to do something great, and that the poorest are not the least good, but perhaps the best. It is one of the great lessons of all these entrepreneurs. We all have areas of suffering, but they have taught us that when we stop focusing on ourselves and open up to the suffering of others, we open up a path of life and happiness. They shine with a happiness that frankly makes us envious. It is an immense lesson in happiness that they have taught us.
Personnellement, ça m'a donné envie d'aller au-devant de toute personne.
Personally, it's given me the desire to go to every single person and not to be afraid. Before, maybe I might have been jealous of someone and was afraid to approach them. Today I say to myself, there is nothing to lose in this meeting and everything to gain.
Je me dis, mais il n'y a rien à perdre dans la rencontre, il y a tout à gagner.
C'est sûr qu'on a de la chance, par exemple, d'avoir l'eau et tout. Et je pense que ce qui est important, c'est...
We are very lucky, for example, to have water. What is important is to have some control over everything we can have too much of, and try and pay attention to what we have, and not always want more.
We chose to place a value on everything that was very positive in the media. The weapon that we use is simply to put a value on everything rather than to criticize. The problem for a journalist is that he is always found in the places where things are going badly. He's always in a place where it's dark. He's not sent where things are going well. So journalists always have a vision of death, a dark way of looking at the world. A journalist has the impression that the whole world is the same. And so it is really a culture of life that we would like to reverse, give back the taste of hope without denying reality. On the contrary, we want to put spotlights on everything that makes the world live, especially on the extraordinary initiatives that prove that with just one person, miracles can happen.
An entrepreneur is devoting their life to cause some change that they believe will make society a better place. The big idea in the hands of an entrepreneur, nothing more powerful. And all they want to do is quit their job and work full-time to make this thing happen, to demonstrate it, to refine it, to make it work in one place. And then you've got to market it, and then you've got to spread it across, which will take a decade or 2 decades. They're ready for that, because they know how important it is, and they know this is the moment in their lives.
I was ecstatic to find social entrepreneurs around the world.
Ce sont des géants de l'humanité, c'est-à-dire que ce sont tous des prix Nobel potentiels.
These giants of humanity That is to say that, for me, they are all Nobel Prize potentials. Personally, through this tour of the world, I have learnt to come out of my shell.
À décloisonner, à casser toutes ces barrières qui nous empêchent de voir et d'écouter.
Ce qui nous touche énormément, c'est que on voit la fécondité.
What touches us deeply is the fertility of these examples of life. The impact they've had in France is very strong, and that explains the immense thirst that sparked an enormous media interest. We've had more than 10 hours of interviews on radio, dozens of articles in the press, a series of television interviews, plus 7 hours of our own films, and the book, which was a bestseller for 2 months.
De passages en télévision, en plus des 7 heures de nos propres films.
What is this all saying? It tells us of everyone's thirst to believe in the light. But to believe in the light, you have to be able to see it. And to see the light, men and women must stand up and be the watchmen with their torch in hand to show the way.
Qui montrent les chemins.
When Christ says to us, "Be the light on top of the bushel, be the yeast in the dough, be the salt of the earth," he is saying, learn to sharpen the way you look at things, to be able to see and reveal to others the light that is in them. And to reveal to others the light that is in them is to open up a path of humanity for them, a path of happiness, a path of hope.
All this positive information, all these internal transformations, is this not for those who believe in God, the work of the Holy Spirit in the world? Our Net for God network is part of this same urgent call to create and strengthen the connections between our churches and our countries, thanks to modern communication, which eliminates the distances separating us. Dialogue no matter what. Open to everyone, hundreds of net points in a network around the world gather men and women of all languages, peoples and nations, young and old, Catholic, Protestant and Orthodox, each month. Net for God is a different way of looking at the world. Each month, the same film is watched by us all to help each one of us better understand and believe that a path of hope and life is possible for all, wherever they are. Net for God is praying with our eyes open onto the world. When 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, I will grant their request. We believe in the strength of the prayer of intercession. Together each month we mobilize to pray for an urgent situation or a specific country.
For this month, we suggest praying for all those who work in media in the world and our country, and especially so that they can promote creative and positive communication. The word of the month is in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 15.
Błogosławcie Pana duchy i dusze sprawiedliwych, święci i serca pokornego. Błogosławcie Pana, kapłani pańscy, błogosławcie Pana, słudzy Pana. Niech ziemia błogosławi i wywyższa na wieki. Niech ziemia błogosławi Pana, niech Go chwali i wywyższa na wieki. Niech ziemia błogosławi Pana, niech Go chwali i wywyższa na wieki. Niech ziemia błogosławi Pana, niech Go chwali i wywyższa na wieki.